Hi everyone. Today I'm going to be going over some colored pencil techniques that will help us in our next drawing. So the first thing we're going to do is a light pressure. So I'm going to choose any one of my colored pencils that are nice and sharp. So this one has a nice sharp point to it. With colored pencil, we want to make sure that we're not using blunt colored pencils. Always keep your colored pencil sharp. You're going to get a nice even coverage that way. So the first thing I'm doing is putting down light pressure layers, and notice that I'm going over the layers that I'm drawing multiple times. And I'm kind of using the side of the pencil here. Then I'm gonna rotate the pencil. So by varying the direction that I'm shading this, I can build up light layers up and down, side to side, diagonal. And when I'm working with colored pencil, you can get a full range of value with one pencil, depending on how hard you're pressing. So by putting down light layers, I'm getting a nice smooth area of colored pencil. I could still see some of the white paper showing through, but it's in such fine little spots that it doesn't look like an unfinished area of shading. Using the same colored pencil, I can also do a heavy pressure blend. So by going right away with a heavier application of the colored pencil, same color, I'm just pushing harder and building up those same layers, I'll still get an even blend, but it almost looks like two different colored pencils. And from the darkest value that I'm shading now to the lightest value here, there's a full range of pencil that you'll be able to get with just one pencil. And I'm going to show you that in the next box, which is a gray date. But first, let me put down a few more layers of this. So there's our light pressure and our heavy pressure. For the gray date, I've chosen to switch my color. This is a green. And I'm going to start with that heavy pressure blend like I just did with the purple. And as I'm going across this rectangle, I'm easing off the pressure. Again, notice how sharp my pencil is. And then when I get to the edge of the box, I'm barely putting down layers, just enough to slightly cover it. So it's going to go from light to medium dark to darkest value. And you can vary the direction of your pencil for this as well. So my goal is to make a full range of the darkest pencil to the lightest just by the layers and how hard I'm pressing on the paper. Sometimes I find if I squint my eyes at my drawing, I can see the difference in the value a little bit better. So you might want to try that. Okay. So there's my gray date. In the next box, I want to do another gray date, but this time I'm going to burnish it with an eraser. So to burnish, I created another gray date. So I have two gray dates of the same color. And with all the layers that I put down for the gray date, I'm now going to take the end of my eraser, and I'm not pressing too hard to actually erase the colored pencil, but it is smoothing it out. So what the eraser does is it takes all the layers that I just put down and it blends them together. When you're working with colored pencil and you're layering different colors to create your form and value, make sure that you don't burnish too soon. That's a big mistake that artists make. So I'm doing circular motions and I'm going over this gray date. Some of the colored pencil is going to end up on my eraser, so please be aware of that. So I'm burnishing and blending, and it gives it a nice smooth effect. You want to make sure that you don't take your hand and push the eraser shavings away because you would smudge your artwork. So you could use a dry paintbrush if you have one and scooch those off. Or you could shake it over the trash or bring it over to the garbage and just blow on it. So this is a nice smooth effect, but the back of my eraser has that green pencil on it. Before I put this back in my art kit, I would take a scrap paper or the corner of a blank piece of paper, and I would just erase this colored pencil until I see the green come off of it. And I can see some of that green was left behind on the paper. I'm glad that's not smudged on my artwork. In the next two boxes, we're going to be doing techniques called hatching and cross-hatching. So hatching is when you create lines to show value in your artwork. I'll have examples of hatching and cross-hatching that I'll be showing you in class. So for hatching, I'm going to keep my pencil really sharp, and it doesn't matter which direction the hatching is going, but it's sharp lines next to each other. So the hatching lines might be farther away to make a lighter value, or they might be really close together with a harder pressure to create a darker value. And hatching is a technique that you would use if you were creating value in a sketch or a drawing. The next block, cross-hatching, is very similar to hatching. We start off the same by putting hatch lines next to each other. And then we're going to be creating little X's by going over the hatch lines. So I could create a medium value by hatching like this, or I could go over, so diagonal, diagonal, and then vertical and horizontal. Depending on how many times you layer your cross-hatching, you could give the illusion of a darker value. Or you could space them farther apart and have a lighter value. So in this block here, practice drawing some hatch lines, putting them farther or closer together, layering them up, change the value, so a light pressure or a heavy pressure for hatching. So I might do a light pressure hatch there. And see if you can fill up those two boxes. The next technique we're going to do is layering some color. So I chose yellow, yellow, green, and orange. And I'm going to put down first a layer of the yellow, and I'm doing a medium pressure blend. Then I want to choose a new color. I think I'll use the yellow green. And I'm going to blend some layers on top of that. Now see where the yellow and the yellow green overlap? It's creating a new color. So you can layer colors to create new colors. And I'm making sure not to do a heavy pressure too soon. I'm also not going to burnish it yet because I want those colors to build up. You can go back on top of it with your first color. So this is yellow and yellow green layered together. I think I'll try the orange over the yellow too. So I'm layering the orange on top of the yellow. And then I'll put the yellow back on top. And it starts to blend and make a new orangish yellow. I think on the bottom I'm going to grab my golden yellow and see if I can make one more blend. There's not a lot that blends with both orange and green. But different yellows are nice for that. So I've got my golden yellow on the bottom and my yellow yellow at the top. So there's going to be a slight variation in color between what happens with the blends here and at the bottom. I think I like this one better. It's a little bit more vibrant. So this is golden yellow with yellow green and golden yellow with orange. I'm going to jump ahead to grade 8 with 2 colors and right down below it, the grade 8 with 2 colors with a heavy pressure. So remember we did the grade 8 up here, which was the heavy, medium, light. I'm going to go ahead and do that same thing in these 2 boxes. So with the periwinkle, I did a heavy, medium, light pressure in both boxes. So right now they're both twins. And I think the color that I'm going to do a light pressure on top is going to be the aqua. So it's heavy, medium, light with the periwinkle, but the aqua is going to be where the light pressure comes in. So over this whole thing, I'm going to just take the aqua. I'm not pressing too hard. I'm just doing some soft layers. So it's a subtle color change here. And I'm sure you've already guessed what I'm going to do to the box below. Taking that same aqua, I'm going to do a heavy pressure. So starting in the lightest area, I'm putting a heavy pressure of aqua over the periwinkle. and I'll put a few layers of this down. So when you are blending colors, not only is it the colors that you're selecting that makes a difference in the way we view it, it's also the pressure that you're using. So a heavy pressure of color, a medium pressure, or a light pressure are going to give very different results, even when you're blending with the same color. Choose one color now, make sure it's nice and sharp, that you want to do for the last 3 boxes. We're going to do a grade 8 plus white, plus gray, and plus black. So we know what to do. We've already done a bunch of grade 8s. We are starting on the left with that heavy pressure, and then lifting up the pressure of the pencil across the middle so we get medium, and barely coloring on the end because that is our light pressure. So light to medium to dark, and I'm going to keep doing this for all 3 of these last boxes. Now that I have 3 grade 8s that look like triplets, we're going to be going on top of them with white, gray, and black. So I'm going to start in the lighter area here, and I'm taking my white, and with a medium pressure, I'm going over this whole grade 8. So the white is nice. It's kind of like when we use the eraser for burnishing, where it blends and smooths out the color. If you find that not much is happening when you're putting the white down, you might not have enough colored layers of your grade 8. So in order for the white to help you blend the pigment underneath, you have to have enough pigment. So if you just put a little bit of colored pencil down and then you put the white on top of it, it might not really feel like anything's happening. Also, like when we were using the eraser, because this is burnishing here, that color, that orangish red, is on the tip of my pencil. So before I go burnish with anything else or blend with anything else, I would want to either sharpen it or use a paper towel or a scrap piece of paper to just color with the white until it colors clear. And I know that that reddish orange is off of there. So you can see a difference with the white on top of your grade 8, softens it, lightens it, smooths it out. Now with our gray colored pencil, I'm going to do the same thing in the second box. So I'm going to go over with some lighter layers to start. Mixing gray with colors is a really great trick that artists use to neutralize the color that you're working with. So maybe I was going to be coloring in a red apple. So I might use this orangish red color to color in the red apple. If I did the entire apple as this bright color, it would look a little bit cartoonish and fake, because although we know that apples, a lot of apples are red, they're not all bright crayon red or bright marker red. So apples are going to have some shadow to them. And if I use black for my shadows, it's going to darken it and look artificial. So putting a gray shadow is going to neutralize, it's going to tone down some of the intensity of the red, and it's also going to give it a more natural shadow. Because gray is just black and white together. So the dark part of the gray is adding the shadow, and the white part is softening the color so that it doesn't look so intense and artificially vibrant like wax fruit. And I'm just building up the layers so you can see already the difference between the grade 8 with white and the grade 8 with gray using the same base color. And lastly, we're going to do the grade 8 plus black, and this is going to darken it significantly. So starting on the lighter side, I'm going to add in some soft layers of black right on top. For this one alone, I'm going to go back on top of it with my red after. So I'm putting layers of black. And the black is such a dark pigment, it often dominates over the color underneath. So I'll build up some layers, and then I'm going to take my original color and go right back on top of it. So with the orange red, there we go, that looks nice. So it's orange red, black, orange red. And I could even make this darker if I want to with more layers of the black. So there's our difference between grade 8 white, grade 8 gray, and grade 8 black. There are so many ways that you can use colored pencil to create value and form and light in your drawings. We can even use solvents and other things to blend with the colored pencils, but these are just 8 ways that we'll be using colored pencil in our next drawing assignment.